Her girl's night smelled like cologne. I used to think trust had a sound, not the crash of a door or the click of a lock, but something small and constant, ice settling in a glass, the gentle sigh a house makes when it believes it's been left alone. Lately the house held its breath around us. Plates whispered against the sink instead of clattering. The shower ran with the bathroom door closed, as if steam could launder secrets. Even our mattress learned to be quiet, as though it didn't want to get involved. "Girls' night," Lee said, twisting her hair into a knot, a move that used to mean we're running late for a movie and I'm happy about it. Now it meant I need to be someone else for a while. She kissed my cheek, soft and practiced, a curtain call rather than a beginning, and left me on the couch with a bowl of grapes and a documentary I didn't want to watch. I told myself not to be dramatic. Then I picked up her scarf from the back of the chair. It smelled like rain, and beneath that unmistakably cologne, expensive, slow-burning, the kind that travels from a throat to a wrist and survives a taxi. I wanted to believe she'd brushed past a stranger in an elevator, that the scent clung the way a memory does when you didn't invite it. But the scarf smelled like the same man 2 nights in a row. Trust, it turned out, also had a taste, metallic, like a penny held under the tongue until your mouth goes numb. I didn't decide to follow her. I decided to take a walk because the walls were tipping toward me. The air outside was crisp, the city busy enough to pretend it didn't see. I let the traffic guide me, an aimless schoolboy behind bigger fish, until I recognized the glow of the Paragon Hotel at the edge of downtown, the one with the copper bar and the velvet chairs, where Lee once said the lobby looks like a jewelry box someone forgot to close. I had no plan beyond watching light move, but then I saw her through the glass. She came off the elevator alone, in a dress I'd never seen, one that made her look like new money and trouble. She checked her phone, tucked it away, and walked toward the bar. The bartender smiled like he knew her order. She took a stool with a view of the elevators. A minute later, a man in a slate suit joined her, neat as a folded letter. He leaned in. She leaned closer. In the mirror behind the bottles, I saw the same familiar scarf around her shoulders, borrowed like an alibi. I told myself to leave. I told myself everything I was about to do would not end with me feeling heroic. The door was heavy in my hand, and the bar was close enough that I could count the bubbles in her drink. When Lee's laughter cut through the room, sharper than usual like she'd rehearsed it, I veered away, into the hotel's second bar, a quieter lounge that smelled like cedar and old gossip. I took a seat at the far end, where you could see the lobby without being seen. A woman already sat there, twisting a ring on a chain around her neck. She had the look of someone letting a glass of wine talk her out of calling someone she shouldn't. "Do you mind if I gestured at the seat beside her. She studied me, then gave a small shrug that felt like an invitation to be honest. "It's a free country, or so they tell us." We sat in silence, two strangers watching a stage. She followed my eyes, then back to me, something connecting the wires that led to her mouth. "Let me guess," she said softly. "You came for an elevator you didn't want to see open." "Something like that." She nodded toward the mirror. Lee and the man were already sharing a joke that required touching each other's wrists as punctuation. "Him too," she said. "You know him." "Too well," she said. "Not well enough." She took a sip, then took me in with a cleaner glance. "I'm Ivy." "Daniel." We didn't shake hands. The distance between our fingers mattered. I told Ivy the truth, or the version of it that fit into a single glass. My wife, the cologne, the scarf that had become a stranger's sleeve. Ivy told me the truth back. She was engaged, sort of. There had been a ring on her finger, then a fight, then the ring moved to her chain, where it hung like a small sun she could hide under her blouse. The man at the other bar, Graham, had promised counseling and apologies and a fresh start. Fresh starts, it turned out, sometimes used old hotel bars. We didn't watch them angrily. What passed over my face felt older than anger, some tide that had been rising for weeks without permission. Ivy tucked her hair behind her ear and leaned closer, as if to see the world I was seeing. "If I sit here much longer, I'm going to become furniture," she said. "Come on." She led me not down the corridor, not toward the elevator, but to the side exit, where a thin sliver of rain had started up, more suggestion than storm. The alley behind the hotel was full of secrets, boxes, ash, a theater poster losing an argument with humidity. "You don't have to keep me company," I said. "I came here to be a cliché." "We're all clichés eventually," she said. "Might as well be humane ones." We walked without touching. The city had that after-hours hush, the kind it puts on to be seductive, like a dress that looks modest until you notice the cut. Ivy's steps matched mine, then overlapped them. We looped the block twice as if to shake something off, then ended up in front of the Paragon again, where the lobby still glowed like a secret you tell yourself you're not telling. "They're still at the bar," she said. "They'll go upstairs. They'll leave a tip big enough to look like respect." She turned toward me. "What do you want?" I considered the appropriate answer, marriage, truth, a rewind button, and found myself saying, to not be invisible. She tilted her head, the ring glinted at her throat. "Then don't be." I don't know which of us moved first. Maybe it was the city, nudging us like a hand behind our backs. Maybe Ivy stepped closer because the rain made the air smaller. Either way, we were suddenly near enough that I could smell her perfume, something light and deliberate, the opposite of the cologne on Lee's scarf. Ivy reached for my hand, then didn't. I reached for her shoulder without meaning to. The touch was light, the kind that asks before answering, and it sent a quiet through me like snow. "This is reckless," she said, not moving. "So is breathing," I said. We went back inside, but not to the glittering bar, not to the mirrored bottles where the reflection could split us. Ivy steered us to a corner of the lounge near the lobby plants, a small jungle for hiding in plain sight. In that pocket of green, we made a decision to exist. My knee touched hers and didn't move. She looked at my mouth, then my eyes, as if choosing which story to hear, and when she kissed me, it was nothing like a claim. It was a careful yes, to a question neither of us wanted to ask out loud. I've never believed in exact moments. This is where it tilted. That's when the storm started. But I can tell you the room got quieter, as if someone had turned down the world. Ivy's lips were warm and cautious. Her hand found my wrist as if to say, "You don't have to explain anything to me tonight." We didn't devour each other. We tasted, patient and aching, like we were remembering something we hadn't done yet. "You smell like rain," she whispered. "That's not all I smell like," I said, and she smiled against my cheek, the kind of smile you hear in your bones. We did not tear anything. We did not undo a single knot without asking the knot. But when her fingers slid up my forearm and tangled with mine, the heat of her palm told me what I already knew. Intimacy isn't geography. It's attention. It's choosing to see. If there's a line, we approached it together, then stepped back laughing, like children testing lake water with their toes. Ivy rested her forehead on mine. "If we do this, we'll become the people they'll accuse us of being." "Tonight," I said, "I want to be the man I actually am, hurt and alive." She breathed out, a soft surrender that wasn't about me. "I can't be a secret," she said. "Then we won't be." When we parted, we were still dressed. My mouth still carried her, though, the way a pocket carries lint from a coat you forgot you loved. We sat like that for a while, bodies angled toward each other, letting our pulses say the things we weren't ready to. When we finally stood, it was to go not upstairs but out to the street, where the air had changed. The rain was honest now. We walked under it and let it bless us or punish us, I wasn't sure. "I don't want this to be revenge," Ivy said, pausing beneath a streetlight that made her hair look like a crime of light. "I don't either." "Then let it be proof," she said, "that we were here, that we saw what we saw, that we refused to vanish." We stood like that until the moment finished itself. When we returned to the lobby, Lee and Graham were gone. A lipstick-stained napkin held down a receipt on the bar. The bartender didn't look up. I thought that would be the end, the scene, the kiss, the clean exit, but endings have a way of daring you to write one more line. I texted Lee to say the documentary was boring and I was going to bed. She sent back a heart emoji and a photo of a half-empty wine glass. "Back late. Love you." It was almost kind. Ivy and I exchanged numbers with the seriousness of a ceasefire. "For logistics," she said, "and only logistics." We agreed on a time and a place 2 days later, a cafe with too many plants and a reputation for muffins. We would sit with our partners, we would say what we needed to say, and then we would go wherever the debris instructed. The morning of the confrontation, I shaved too carefully and cut my cheek. The nick bled longer than the moment deserved. Lee was bright at breakfast, the way people are when they think they've solved a problem with a lie that fits well. She kissed the spot of my jaw she always kissed, missing the bandage entirely, as if my body had rearranged itself in a way that didn't include her. At the cafe, the four of us performed politeness like a task force. Lee wore the scarf, which now made my teeth ache. Graham arrived late, murmuring about a client, his tie proclaiming a different priority. Ivy, to her credit, looked at me only once, long enough to prepare the ground. I did not raise my voice. I set my phone on the table, screen down, as if laying down a weapon. "Lee," I said, "I followed you to the Paragon." She went still. "I saw you with Graham." Her eyes dropped, then closed like a stage light on blackout. Across from us, Ivy said Graham's name with the kind of quiet that makes a room tilt. He tried a denial, then downgraded to confession, each word expensive. Lee reached for my hand and found air. There were no thrown drinks, no grand gestures, only the sound of people who used to speak fluently, searching for a language they hadn't learned. Lee cried in clean, controlled lines. Graham apologized like he was dictating to a secretary. Ivy and I sat like witnesses to an unremarkable storm. When it was my turn to explain something, I told the truth without the part that would turn me into a villain on paper. "I met Ivy at the hotel," I said. "We talked. We kept each other from doing something we couldn't live with." Lee looked up, wounded and relieved and angry all at once, as if I'd complicated the narrative she planned to survive. "I thought we were bored," she said to the table. "I thought this was how people fix that." "You mistook novelty for oxygen," I said gently. "We could have opened a window." The cafe returned to being a cafe around us. The hiss of milk, the clatter of plates, a baby laughing like a rehearsal for joy. Ivy let her ring fall into her palm and closed her hand around it. Lee removed her scarf and flattened it on the table, as if smoothing a map to a country she no longer wanted to visit. We didn't decide everything that day. You never do. But we decided the next right thing. No more hotel bars, no more alibis. Lee and I tried counseling and found the furniture of us wouldn't fit in the new house we were building. She moved in with a friend. She took the scarf. She left 3 sweaters and a glass snow globe that, when shaken, made a perfect blizzard over a plastic city. Ivy and I saw each other twice more in places designed for the living, parks and bookstores and bright cafes. We didn't kiss again. We didn't need to. It isn't that we weren't tempted. We were. but the gravity between us felt like something to be careful with, like a candle in a room full of paper. We talked about futures in the vagueness people use when they're trying not to scare them away. She found a therapist who specialized in forgetting on purpose. I learned how to cook food that tasted like it had been cooked by someone else. Both felt like progress. One evening, months later, the city sent us a storm so serious it creased the sky. I stood at the window with the lights off, watching lightning write invisible letters over the buildings. My phone buzzed, a simple message from Ivy. I saw a woman in a scarf walk into the Paragon. It wasn't her. Thought you should know you're allowed to breathe. I wrote back, I am. Sometimes late at night, I remember the lobby plants and the way Ivy's hand found my wrist in the half jungle, and for a moment the world organized itself into something gentle. I don't know if that qualifies as erotica. It wasn't explicit. It was a mouth and a promise and a decision not to disappear. But when the kettle whistles in my quiet kitchen, when steam fogs the pane and the city smears into stars, I can still feel the careful way her lips said yes against mine, the way consent can be a poem, line by line, name by name, a slow, unwavering light in a room full of mirrored bottles. Trust has a sound again. It isn't loud. It's the click of my own front door when I come home, the soft thud of a book closing when I finish a chapter, the whisper of a shirt over my shoulders that smells only like rain. And sometimes, very rarely, it's the memory of a kiss given like a kindness, proof that even in the middle of a lie, two strangers can choose to be true.